recorded and broadcast and rebroadcasted on WestfordCAT. We have one member absent, Dylan, and Bob is here by phone, so we'll do roll call. Start with open forum. Jenowitz, anything for open forum?
There's two items, Mr. Chair. One, if anybody is here for 37 Powers, they did request to continue that matter without discussion to June 30th. And we did receive a request to withdraw the item for Pacific Lane this evening. So that modification request, after getting some additional pricing, they requested to withdraw that modification. So that's it.
What's that?
Nothing further.
Jody?
No.
Nothing. Bob, anything open forum?
Nothing for open forum.
Anybody in the audience? All right. First public hearing, PB 2510, Kinlock Drive, right away over 66 Main Street for modification of previously approved definitive subdivision and stormwater management permit related to the roadway and drainage construction. Jenowitz?
Just at your last meeting, we did leave the hearing open. I received revised materials from the applicant, which we did. Engineering reviewed, had a little back and forth. Mr. Slager addressed their questions. And we also have a draft decision in your packet for review. We fixed one date reference that the applicant noticed, which we had no issue with changing. And town council reviewed as well. They had one, I would say, relatively minor change to language regarding some of the ownership. And I can highlight that.
It's a finding IV on page 4 of 10 of the decision, just talking about easement and ownership rights in that.
So we have that reflected up here on the screen. Again, really just minor detail, all things considered. Just fixing that language.
And also, condition 17, I just want to call out, there was a comment from an abutting party. So there is a suggested condition that they'll make a good faith effort to try to secure a Main Street address for those two lots. But of course, ultimately, that's up to the E911 committee and folks from the state. The applicant said they're willing to do that. So, but again, if either locally or state they say no, that's not on the applicant. That's out of our control.
Yep. Which Slater?
Nothing. Addressed all of the engineering comments, made plan modifications, and that's it.
All right. Go to the board. Joni?
I just have a couple of small things. First one is really just a clarification for myself. Sheet 7 indicated that you're going to install the silt fence at the base of the stone wall, but sheet 8 says you're removing the stone wall, so I'm just not sure. This is on the, what I would call the north side. So I just don't know, are you keeping that stone wall on the north side or not?
There's actually two stone walls, or there was two stone walls.
It's the red button.
Yes, he installs silt fence along the
Okay,
base of the
yeah,
stone
the silt
wall.
fence along this stone wall, there was a secondary stone wall right in here. You
Okay.
can see the remnants of it. That's actually been removed in this location.
Okay, all right, that was just one question. The next one, I had spoken with Jeff earlier today. One of the comments from engineering talks about the applicant will inspect the property, for the enforcement of the lawn maintenance. To me, that didn't make sense. I mean, once the property's sold, the developer isn't going to want to, applicant is not going to want to go there. So just wanted to be sure that engineering, in fact, is okay with the fact that the property owners that do the inspection.
Right, so we also have other, I'll say vanilla language that the applicant, it turns into their heirs and assigns and whoever inherits it. So it's customary that the burden falls onto the then property owners who are ultimately responsible. And by having this in the decision, it's of record and they can't, they can try for anything, but it's clearly called out before that lot is sold that they are aware of that responsibility. So we can either leave the language as is, or we can try to make it more clear, but we already have something that covers, it's after the applicant, it does fall onto the owner.
Okay, I mean, I'm fine with that. I just want to be sure engineering is okay with it because it was their comment, so
Right.
I just want to be sure. Okay, and then the last one, I know, and I talked to Jeff again earlier today, and I'm not sure if he actually spoke to you two gentlemen. If there would be any willingness with some of the savings, for the things that we're waiving, to contribute a small portion to maybe the design of some pedestrian safety, and the sidewalk master plan for the MBTA community.
Let me touch on the fact that I think it's a valid request by all means. This particular piece goes way back prior to your time here. This was a 26-acre piece that we brought forward. We kind of deal with conservation to donate 20 acres back in the day, which is why there's only 6 acres being developed and not a larger piece for that. We also made some concessions with the town with our back lot, so that we kind of modified our open space piece there. As part of that 20, we moved some lot lines around so that the Tom Paul Trail didn't have to be relocated. So we feel like we've contributed quite a bit to this parcel to get 6 acres of developable land on a 26-acre parcel. To continue to contribute for essentially building a roadway to get, further down the road. It's an $800,000 road as originally designed. We felt like it maybe wasn't, some of what was required wasn't fairly imposed on us at the time, but nevertheless, we moved forward, and clearly we're back now to reduce that scope to make it more like a country road setting, if you will. We can make the drainage work. Your engineer chimed in on that. From a public safety standpoint, there's really not a lot of traffic down there, but from a cost savings, we're really looking forward to reducing this scope to try and make this even feasible. Our original intent was to do 3 there. The planning board prior to you didn't like it, and now we're down to 2. So it's a lot of road as is to get to essentially a second home now. And any cost savings we can absorb, we'd like to. Kind of our position. I don't think your request is unreasonable, but I think in this particular setting, it's more than we're hoping for.
Okay, I want to just bring it up.
Yeah, it's fair. It's a fair question, Joni. This thing has a long history, and we've spent a lot of money on it, and donated quite a bit to the town, in my opinion, for this parcel.
Yeah.
Nope, I just had a question on condition 10. It's highlighted, just see what story it has. There wouldn't be a bond here, right? Because it's already...
So this is actually subdivision control law. So the most common thing to do in this case is to either say that they won't sell it until the improvements are done. Usually that's the simplest, cheapest way, but that's just really from subdivision control law. So whether or not it's there, it's still a requirement, but we try to make more people aware of that so there's fewer surprises down the road, so to speak.
I guess relief from subdivision control law, because there is so much, these are very oversized lots, and typically in a subdivision, they don't like us to do finish asphalt till we're done building all the homes there. I don't know that there's necessarily a home coming down the end in any short time, but we would like to finish the road. Is there a mechanism for that? Knowing that, they don't like you to typically offload equipment on the road to get to your 20,000 square foot lot in your subdivision, but in this particular case, where it is a private drive, we could offload equipment on this 3-acre lot, which is down the end of the road. Is there a mechanism? But also where Mr. Finneral's living there, is there a mechanism for us to finish this and kind of end the process with the planning board and then go build that house someday down the end? Where it is a private drive and the risk is on the owners?
So I think that is a possibility, just as if any roadway is completed public, it's easier because once it's accepted, it's accepted. If someone were to do, say, a frontage lot, they would get to build, and normally there may or may not be some issues. If they suddenly repave, there might be some limited time period before you get to cut it up, but such requirements don't apply for what would be a private way. But we can certainly look into that for you, because I understand it's one additional lot. When you do this, you want to be done. That is a fair point. As long as we're above board with subdivision control law, I don't see an issue with that.
Okay. Typically, the restraining, we're doing it right now on Spalding is, you know, we looked at maybe paving sooner than later, but it was a concern of highway to get, you know, concrete trucks out of there, landscaping truck, you know, heavy equipment that's coming and going over the roadway so that you don't experience, that's unique in every town, quite honestly, guys. Littleton wants you to pave within 2 years of your binder. They don't care if you're driving trucks over it after that or not. Every town's a little different. In this particular case, though, you know, rather than get in and bond this to get a lot release down the back, we'd rather finish the thing and be done. Be done with you, be done with the town, be done with everybody, and then have a third lot down the end, deal with your building department to get access to that lot to build it.
So I think there's definitely opportunity here, because at the end of the day, the ones you'll be hurting are only the
Self-imposed.
lot owners.
Self-imposed.
And at the end of the day, the roadway would be done and constructed. So I don't know how much, say, the town would even have at that point, honestly.
Okay, so this mechanism for lot release is your typical covenant or?
Typically, because then you don't have to
Yeah.
provide any security, but if you just build it and do it, you can then get, and it's done, then you can get that release, because once the improvements are constructed, you can,
Okay.
there's no need for the security.
Okay, just wanted to talk that up. Thank you.
So do we need to amend that language? I'm a little bit confused.
No, that's
so
really
that's good.
subject to
Okay.
local law,
All right.
so.
All right, Bob?
I have just one question, comment, and that had to do with Mark's letter of 11 June. I agreed with the response that proper lawn maintenance would address the concerns of engineering regarding erosion. But with that said, I want to inquire whether there is a well or is it strictly town water on the lot?
Town water.
And I also do not see anything in the conditions that would mandate the proper lawn maintenance. And I'm just concerned that in a period of drought, that lawn could get to a situation where it's not going to provide the necessary erosion control if it dries up, because it's not allowed to be watered. And I don't see anything in the conditions regarding this.
So I guess what I would say is if the owners allow the lawn area to become so degraded that it doesn't function and it creates an adverse stormwater impact, they would be subject to enforcement under this decision.
The stormwater decision.
Stormwater.
Is that sufficient, Bob?
So, yeah, if that gets, would like to see that added. Thank you.
Anything else?
That's it. You've addressed everything.
I'll go to the audience. Anybody have questions, comments, concerns?
Good evening, John Conway, 66 Main Street. Had a little difficulty hearing some of the discussion back there, but I've followed this pretty closely, and this is the first I'm seeing of this document, and would just want an opportunity to review it before you arrive at a decision. I mean, I literally downloaded the agenda from the website 2 hours ago or 3 hours ago, and none of this information was there. So my request is simply just to get a chance to review it, not in the throes of this meeting, and then, you know, I just want a chance to review it. There's 19 bullet points here that have, you know, I know it's probably consistent with what the team here has outlined, but I would like a chance to review it.
Was in the meeting packets that were uploaded on Friday.
What's on your website?
It's in the meeting packets that have come in, yep.
This is what I downloaded this from the website, so I didn't get a chance to review it. I mean, that's all, you know,
Posted in the agenda section or in the packet?
Well, I mean, I appreciate the good faith effort on the Main Street address. I mean, that's positive. Little concerned, again, I didn't pick up all the conversation in the back of the room. But, you know, some concerns I have is I just want a chance to read it. I didn't realize there was a broader document. As I said, I followed this situation pretty closely. And there's a lot to digest in the meeting here. So, I mean, I don't have a reaction to it because this is the first I'm seeing it, and so that's my request.
Mike, this is Bob.
Yep.
I'm looking at the agenda, and I guess Mr. Conway has a valid point. I understand we do know that there is a meeting packet. I would ask staff if from now on, we could have a statement on the agenda that says for additional information and details on all of these matters, please see the associated meeting packet available for download online.
So, Mr. Conway, I hear you, and it'll be up to the board. My thought is, we've had so many public hearings on this one matter. Maybe we hold it over for a little bit of time for you to take a look at that. I don't know that it's fair to the applicant to have them come back to another public hearing.
So, 2 weeks ago, it was a very quick update from the lawyer regarding the fire chief. It was literally a 2-minute presentation by the team, and that was it. There was no discussion of they were going to put something more comprehensive together. The week prior was the discussion. There was a lot of neighborhood constituents who voiced their position. And then today, we're just coming down here to stay abreast of the situation, and that's what I saw. And I agree with Bob's commentary that, I ran a digital marketing organization for a large company, and the ability to manage a website or understand it, I feel like I'm qualified for that, and I didn't see it. And I'm probably not the only one, as I have spoken to a few neighbors and was, I know they're interested in this as well, but the agenda did not spell out that there was additional information for us to consume and prepare for this. And because there's 19 bullet points or whatever you want to say on that, which is a lot to digest in this forum. So my request would be, it's 2 weeks. Yes, it's gone on a long time, but what is 2 more weeks to put it on the agenda for the next planning board meeting and have a formal discussion? I don't think that's unreasonable.
Joni, thoughts?
I understand the point. There is a lot to read here, so if, the developer is not, in a hurry to start this, I see no problem with waiting for 2 more weeks. You were in a hurry to start.
We are, of course, we always are. But it's a draft decision that you generate. Do you take public input? Do you modify based on abutters? Is it something you can go over now? Your agenda's light, and we pull it up and look at it. Is there anything actually in there that is not kind of boilerplate stuff that you issue on all your decisions? This one is in conjunction with the decision that was generated, whatever that was, 7 or 8 years ago, which I don't think it really is substantially different than that one, if I'm not mistaken.
I think that's true, that a lot of these items are basically taken from the original decision, and it was supplemented with some new conditions based on the new waivers that we're requesting and the modifications to the plan. There really isn't anything in here that's more significant or whatever word you use, more abundant than what was at the last meeting. There were very minor modifications to the plan to address the engineering comments, and that was it. There's nothing that changed since the first public hearing.
So
All the points were gone over then.
to counter that, you use terms like new, minor modifications, which is a modification, supplementary information. That's all new. That's different than what it was. So when you start, I don't want to, go over words here, but there's new material that's being presented here that was different from 2 weeks ago and different from a month ago.
So,
And different from 7 years ago.
sir. So we directed staff at the last meeting to draft a decision based upon the discussions that we've had throughout. So this is just memorializing our discussions up until today. This is what this decision is. So there's nothing in this that hasn't already been discussed. This is memorializing the meetings and the decisions made by this board and the agreements made by the developer. Again, I'm willing to give you some time if you want to take a look at it. I really don't want to hold this over for another meeting, but I think they're willing to sit and let you go through a couple hearings.
Let's just say I want to engage an attorney to review that on my behalf, so that I have a clear understanding of what is being proposed here, which is different, highlighted in red in certain areas than it was discussed. I mean,
Discussed
I
when?
don't think it's that unusual you're presenting new information here. The words the gentleman just used were modifications, new, supplementary.
Of the original subdivision. Not modification of what we've discussed, modification of the original subdivision.
Yeah, I would say there was a lot of correspondence in the packet between engineering and the team and the applicant, so all that information is there for you certainly to review. But again, I'm not sure if we want to delay it for another meeting.
You want to speak?
Yes, hi, I'm Regina Conway. I'm a co-owner at 66 Main Street. I have a question about, you're saying road, and the people who own the road are responsible if something happens that's wrong. Well, it's not a road, it's a right-of-way. It's not Kinlock Drive. It is a piece of property that sits in back of 66 Main Street, which is now 64 Main Street, not Kinlock Drive. Are we, as the owners of that property, if there is runoff, and you're saying the owners of the road are responsible for what happens on the runoff, I think we need to be very careful about the wordage in this, and we need a lawyer to look at it. And for you to okay it now would be irresponsible.
Well, respectfully, ma'am, you've known this has been coming, well, you're asking us to engage a lawyer on, what's this, the third hearing on this?
And I will say
It's actually
engineering,
inappropriate response.
So there was a public hearing, and you guys have the dates, you know, May 19th. There was a lot of discussion. Then there was a 2-minute update on June 2nd, which was strictly around the fire chief's approval of a thing, wasn't an opportunity as much because this information wasn't there. Now this information is condensed and presented in a unified way. It is on your website, buried in a packet that was not listed on the agenda. And at the end of the day, I'm simply asking, given that this has been a long-standing dispute, that we have ample time to review that. And maybe in fairness, it may be fine, but I simply, in the heat of the moment here, looking at 19 bullet points, which is maybe a summation, as you say, of what was discussed initially, but I want to review that. And if that's all I'm requesting, and yes, I know this has been going on for a long time, and that's because words matter, and it's very particular, it's very important to us, it's very important to the developers, they want to get it right, and I do appreciate the commentary that I saw there, that, so yeah, we'll evaluate the Kinlock Drive thing, that's a sensitive topic to us. And so, yeah, it could be a no big deal. I don't, given that they, for various reasons, I don't know, but the decision was handed down, at least 5 or 6 years ago, and now they're just beginning the development of the second home. And so that's all. And now there was conversation of a third lot, which is, that's the most sensitive point for all of us, is that there was, mention of a third lot.
There's
So-
no mention of the third lot in this decision.
Not in the decision, but in the conversation here, which is a summation of, next week's going to have a summation and potentially mention third lot. So we're just asking to give us,
You've got someone behind you, if you want to.
give us a little bit of time. Sorry. I've said my piece, and thank you for consideration.
Thank you.
Apologies for the interruption. I'm Akhil Wilder, I live on Equestrian Street, Equestrian Lane, 7 Equestrian Lane. Been a resident of Westford for the past 21 years. Been extremely pleasant stay here, and thank you for an opportunity to be here, making a lot of friends here. This is not directly connected with any specific issue, but at the same time it has a bearing on something that is being discussed, I believe. You kindly shared that the documents for today's meeting was shared on the website on Friday, and today being Monday. My question here is, do we have, as per town's bylaws, practices, written, unwritten, is there any lead time for any discussion that is big, not discussion, any decision being voted on, a lead time, minimum X number of days, is there?
So, sir, so this is a public hearing that was started on May 19th. So we discussed it then, again, it was a short discussion on the 2nd. And the 2nd, we got clarification to the questions we asked, and we asked staff to draft a decision based upon that information. So if anyone's paying attention on the June 2nd meeting, they would have known the decision's coming today.
Okay, so my question is, again, not directly connected to the specific issue. My question is more about a decision being made where there have been back and forth conversations and amendments, however minor they may be. If there is a document that is being brought up for its finality, for final discussion and voting on that, is there, as per town bylaws, X number of days notice, documents being publicly available for X number of days? It's a question. It's
I don't know, Jeff, do you have an answer to that question?
So there is nothing relative to the planning board for that. There's no formal bylaw or requirement, but the information was in the board's meeting packet, as they mentioned.
Okay. I traveled for work, and that's my personal business. I do understand the previous one was about that industry that was being started many years back on Route 40. There has been a lot of town-wide conversation about that. So I'm carrying from that point on. If there is no such practice, written, unwritten, of giving X number of lead time for the public awareness to read the documents that are being brought up for final discussion, to be made available publicly in its entirety. If it is not there, could we have something going forward? I'm not asking to be grandfathering this for any purposes, but could we have something like that so that we could avoid this conversation?
Certainly, I think that would be something we'd have to change in our bylaw, but that certainly could be processed as a bylaw amendment. So I want you to know, we have to have a certain amount of notice if there's going to be a public hearing. So the public is told that there's going to be a public hearing on the matter. So there's 7 days notice of Jeff?
No, so there's the public meeting, and then there's the public hearing. So for the public meeting, we have to meet open meeting law notice requirements. So that's 2 business days, excluding holidays and weekends, where we have to post a meeting. For the public hearing notice, and not every application is a public hearing, it does have to be published in the newspaper, basically a minimum of 2 weeks before the meeting and in 2 successive weeks, so twice.
Like the details of what the discussion topic point, or whatever are the open considerations, what is being voted on, the details of that?
So on the agenda, and there are some agendas out there, it gives you the topic and it gives you enough information, hopefully, so that you're aware of what is the subject property and the nature of the request.
Okay.
So if you are an abutter to a public hearing, you're provided that one initial notification, the public hearing notice, and then the onus falls onto you to follow along and track and see, or attend the meetings or watch after the fact.
Sure.
So that is that. I'll say that not every decision the board makes is in a public hearing, and not every decision do they see a draft write-up of that decision for every single thing, because that, you can imagine the unintended consequences. So. But there is no such requirement at this point in time, but that information was available at the time, basically around when the agenda got posted, but when the packet got uploaded.
Just another minute. In order to avoid the contentious situations like the previous gentleman brought up, if there are amendments to what has been discussed in the past, I would strongly feel, as a resident here, I would strongly feel and I would recommend that let us do that a bit more transparent. I mean, this is not trying to make it opaque on purpose. I'm not accusing any of that stuff. What I mean to say is, let's make it a bit more transparent so that we can avoid this conversation in the future. That's my recommendation and request. Thank you very much.
Okay, anybody else? Any comments, Bob?
Nope, no further comments.
All right, so we need to decide whether we're going to close the public hearing. So we'll vote on that. If I can have a motion to close the public hearing. Is
So moved.
there a second? Hearing no second. All right, we're going to have to continue this to our next meeting.
So, Mr. Chair, there are a couple of options. There is a special
You want
meeting
to slide them in on the 30th?
on the 30th, and the next regularly scheduled meeting is July 21st. We also have a question for the board. While the board did indicate they could make a June 30th special meeting, we did not hear back from everyone yet is if they could start at 6:30, or does it have to be the 7 o'clock regular start time?
Bob, 6:30, okay?
It's fine. Makes no difference.
Better for Bob. Yeah, 6:30 is okay.
6:30 is fine.
All right. June 30th, 6:30?
Yeah, I mean, you know, if I may say, Mr. Chair, May 19th was when we discussed the majority of this stuff. The last subsequent meeting, you mentioned that there'd be a draft decision coming out. I understand that the neighbor couldn't find it on the website. He certainly had access to your staff to make the call and say, could I see the draft? I haven't seen it. Does it exist? May I review it? You know, hurry up and wait, right? I mean, hurry up and wait. You know, this is when we get stuck in the building roads in the middle of the summer, and then all of a sudden we're not stabilized in September, and people are wondering why dirt's running down the hill. Is because we can't start the thing on time, and we grow grass September 1st, right? So here we are buying 2 more weeks for a decision that was made available, and I understand, hey, I probably couldn't find the thing online, but I would certainly call and say, as a layperson, I can't find it online, could you please send me a copy of it, which I'm sure your staff would have. You know,
I'd also like to point out that this application was submitted on April 18th, and we had to wait over a month for engineering review, so that was just a whole other wait that we had to do.
I believe it's almost unprecedented that you've extended a meeting for about his review of your decision.
Yeah, I can't get a second. I agree with you guys on.
Well, may I get Joni or Mr. Schaefer's reason why they wouldn't second closing the public hearing? We were going to close it 2 weeks ago, but we asked to keep it open in case there was something that we had to resubmit as a plan. Your board was ready to close it. We suggested our attorney to leave it open, so we were ready to close it 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
But tonight, we can't get a second to close it? I don't understand why.
Well, we did vote, and we didn't vote. We didn't get a second, so I think that we have no choice but to come back on the 30th. All right, so I get a motion to continue this to June 30th, 6:30?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Joni?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Darren?
Aye.
And I say aye.
See that? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, PB 250537 Powers Road. Applicant has asked us to continue without discussion to June 30th at 6:30 PM, special meeting here. Is there a motion to continue?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye. Joni?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Darren?
Aye.
And I say aye. We have PB 2515, we needed bodywork request for administrative review. The applicant has asked to withdraw that request.
Which one, sir?
Pacific Lane, later on requested to withdraw. That one is still moving.
Oh, it is, okay, I'm sorry. Scratch that. Hi there,
Hi.
gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is a change of use where there is no structural changes to the building, no additions, nothing like that, no parking getting taken away. It's just going in for what was a business professional office use, see church insurance, I believe. And looking for this massage establishment here. Everything's generally by appointment. 4 rooms in all. So parking should be pretty limited in terms of its use internally. I don't know if the applicant has anything to add about your hours of operation or your business?
All right. Seems pretty straightforward. I'll go to the board. Joni, you have any questions?
No question.
Bob, any questions?
No questions. I've heard that the parking is sufficient, and that would be my only concern, so I'm fine.
Darren?
Nope, now that we've defined what the water room is, I think we're all set.
I don't have any questions, so can I have a motion to approve PB 2515, the request for administrative review and approval for change in use from business to professional office at 17 Littleton Road, Unit H?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye. Joni?
Aye.
Bob? Vote.
Aye.
Darren?
Aye.
And I say aye.
You said 175 Littleton
Can I
Road.
just ask you one point, Mike?
Yes, please.
In your motion, did you just say 17 Littleton Road?
175. If I said 17, I meant 175. Yeah, Unit H.
Yeah.
Okay,
Everybody voted. Yep.
Yes.
Thanks.
you're all set. Thank you very much. Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you for everyone.
All right, now PB 1921 Pacific Lane, they've requested to remove this from the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve that request to remove?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Joni?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Darren?
Aye.
And I say aye. Review proposed decision for PB 25070 and 415 Groton Road, as well as an unnumbered Groton Road parcel. I see Mr. Waterman. Joe?
Okay, so Mr. Chair, so another one where the board requested decisions. This one you did close the public hearing at the last meeting. We had a site visit subsequent to that to just clarify what the limits of work would be within, that's what we're calling Loonway Extension, the private way portion of Loonway. Mr. Waterman has provided a plan updating what that work will entail. A little bit of back and forth with engineering, but I think all their comments have been addressed at this point. I don't know if you had anything to add or any requested changes or anything.
Nope, I think the board didn't have any comments at the end of the last hearing. The hearing was closed with the exception of providing that exhibit plan. We went through the decisions, didn't have any comments, just clarifying ownership, but beyond that, they did address engineering today, and then they came back and just had it was all kind of adding a stop sign and crowning the road. There was just kind of some detailed type stuff, so no real substantive changes from the plan that you saw in your packet.
All right, great. I'll go to the board. Joni?
No comments.
Bob, any comment?
Nope, I'm fine.
All right, Darren?
Nope. It's sounds like engineering's on board with it, so it's good.
All right. So what do we need? We've already,
So typically, if we could just get a vote to approve based on the draft decision in your packet, that would be.
get a motion to approve for PB 2507, 415 Groton Road, as well as an unnumbered parcel.
So moved.
All right,
That'd be
then.
for both decisions, Bob, or?
Yeah, so approve the draft decision as discussed.
Second.
All in favor, Joni?
Aye.
Bob?
Decisions.
Decisions.
Aye.
Darren, did I say something wrong? Darren?
Aye. No, I think.
And I say aye.
Clarifying his decisions of decision.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Preliminary discussion with the Gutierrez Company relative to concept plan for consideration under the MBTA Communities Multifamily Overlay District. Good evening.
I can give you a flash drive. Sure. And I didn't realize you had a little pointer. So I can just use the pointer, and that's easier, I think. It's the red button. Yep. Awesome.
This is where you do push the red button.
Or actually, if you have it, you can just load it right up. And I don't even need to open it up. I'll let you drive. Perfect.
Point at the screen, but it doesn't work on the TVs.
Okay, sorry about that. I'll do my best to describe it, but good evening. Israel Lopez with the Gutierrez Company. I am the Managing Director for Development for the Gutierrez Company, and want to thank the board for giving me an opportunity to discuss two topics, really kind of interrelated topics with respect to the MBTA overlay district as it relates to Tech Park, what we call Tech Park East. And those are, our request to essentially swap two parcels within Tech Park East. So that would involve removing Tech Park or Lot 2 and then swapping that out with Tech Park 5. So that's kind of the primary objective, is to kind of lay out that request. And then should that be successful, I wanted to also sort of give the board a sense of what we would redevelop, what we would do, and what our kind of objectives and very high-level redevelopment plans would be, so that the board has a sense of why we are requesting the change to the overlay district in the first place. And so, the first thing I'd like to start off by saying is just, I know, I think the planning board and the MICMAC committee did a really superb job in crafting the overlay district. I know there was a lot of work that went into that. And, I think the end result is a very well-conceived overlay district that creates opportunities for multifamily, which was obviously the goal. And we began, our process early, talking with Jeff and Joe about how to incorporate multifamily within Tech Park East. And our perspective has always been, continues to be, that, this is an asset, this is a park that we've owned and developed and managed for, 3 decades. For us, our main objective is, how do we preserve Tech Park East primarily as an office campus, and integrate different uses into the park that maintain its relevancy, maintain its vibrancy, through a mix of uses, through multifamily. There's a lot of there are precedents that you may be familiar with, other office parks that have incorporated multifamily. So we think that's a great way to do that. But first and foremost, we want to maintain Tech Park East as an office R&D mixed-use campus. And so that's created some challenges in terms of thinking through the kind of near-term and long-term in terms of how do we kind of handle the puzzle pieces, the tenants, if you will, within the park, to make sure that, the Hippocratic Oath says, first do no harm. So we don't want to take away and detract from the park. We want to make it attractive for future tenants. And so that's kind of, the perspective that we're approaching any future redevelopment that incorporates multifamily or condos into the park. So that's kind of where we started. And so maybe just to give you an idea of who the tenants are currently before kind of getting into, the specifics of what we're swapping, just to kind of orient you in terms of the key tenants that are in the park. And I guess I'll do it on the back screen, but I think most of you are familiar, with the park. It encompasses, all the way on the, I guess, eastern side of Littleton. Juniper Networks occupies, pretty much that entire building. That's about 225,000 square feet. Raytheon, United Technologies are in the 2 buildings that abut 495. That's about another 225,000 square feet. So almost 500,000 square feet within those 3 buildings. Tech Park 6 and Tech Park 4, which sit in the middle of the park, are also occupied by 2 long-term tenants. Tech Park 6 is Johnson Controls, they're the former Tyco, and then in Tech Park 4 is Sonos. Ribbon is their corporate name. And those are also long-term tenants that are in there. Moving over to Tech Park 5, this is a building that's occupied by Akamai and Crown Castle. And you know, there is some vacancy in that building. That's probably where we have the largest amount of vacancy currently within the park. And then the two buildings, kind of the three buildings that front Littleton Road, beginning with Emerson Hospital. We no longer own that building. That's the only building in the park that we no longer own, but that was part of the original development. And then the two buildings that kind of form the gateway into the park are multi-tenant buildings, Tech Park 2, and then, Tech Park 1 and Tech Park 2. Tech Park 1 is, has always been a multi-tenant building with smaller, like engineering type firms, and then Tech Park 2 is currently occupied by NVIDIA, mostly by NVIDIA. And so that's sort of the general overview. There's retail that we also developed and is part of the overall park. This retail shares the sewer and the infrastructure that supports the entire park. So that's kind of the high-level overview, and then of course, what's currently included within the overlay is what's shown in this yellow dash, which are 3 parcels, 2, 4, and 6, and you know, our proposal would be to eliminate 2 and replace it with 5. And so, actually, just if you back up for one quick sec. So our original kind of thought when we were, when we decided to add these 3 parcels into the overlay district was to really, we always felt that this putting multifamily or residential use in the center of the park made sense. But we also thought that there was an opportunity to maybe to either do a mixed-use building that fronted Littleton Road with a restaurant on the ground floor or redevelop, so the first option would have been you'd redevelop the entire building as mixed use with residential above and ground floor with restaurant. The second option would have been to leave the office in place on floors 2 and 3 and put in restaurant on the ground floor. With the recent changes to the zoning, we could do that. We could add that restaurant now without having to go through the MBTA overlay bylaw. So that's opened up some flexibility, and it's one of the reasons why we're looking to eliminate that parcel and replace it with Tech Park 5. The other main reason, probably more importantly, is that NVIDIA has decided to not only extend its lease, but expand its lease there. And so, that's great for the park. That's the exact type of tenant that we want to, attract and maintain. And so that's really just, it's changed the dynamic in terms of the near-term opportunities to add multifamily or condos into the park. So now we can go to the next slide. And so this is just, this graphic just shows what I've been describing, which is on the left panel is the existing overlay area that's included within Tech Park, and on the right panel is the revised configuration. And so what's currently in the overlay district is about 24 acres. And with the replacement of Lot 2 for Lot 5, it would be 29.3 acres. The next slide just shows this in terms of the actual numbers on paper. Those are the lots that would be affected. So Tech Park 2, which is 8.2 acres, would be eliminated, and Tech Park 5 lot would be added, and there's just the tabulation of what that translates to in terms of acreage. And then this is just from the bylaw. If you just applied the potential density that's allowed by the bylaw that's the number of units that you would come up with. This really has no bearing with what we're proposing at all. I just wanted to show on paper what the math translates to in terms of units per acre in both scenarios. And then the lower panel on this page does actually reflect, if we were successful in doing this, what we would look to do in terms of a redevelopment scenario. And so for Tech Park 5, we'd look to redevelop that as age-targeted condos. It would be 80 units in two buildings, 40 units in each building. And that's really what the near term, and also is shown there, we could carve out, and we would carve out a parcel potentially for a restaurant or a brew pub. We can call it Jeff and Joe's. But the other lots, there's no near-term redevelopment plans for those lots. That's largely driven by the fact that there are long-term leases in place in those buildings, and we're obviously not going to remove those tenants, prior to lease termination. So again, this is just a high-level tabulation of what we would propose. And then if we move to the next slide, this just shows, I wanted to provide at least a high-level kind of conceptual plan of what a redevelopment of that Tech Park 5 lot would look like. And so the first thing is there are a number of constraints that are on that lot that I'd like to point out. There's a power line easement that I think everyone is familiar with that really bisects the entire park, and that's what's shown between those two dashed red lines. So that's an area that can't be developed, can't be built on. We would plan to reclaim some of that space to make green space and get rid of some of that impervious area. So some of that space could be reclaimed, but you couldn't develop on that. And then the project would really, the two-building development would really fall entirely within the footprint of the existing Tech Park building, which is shown in the yellow dash, or the parking area. So it's really just entirely within what's currently developed. And then to the north of the existing driveway, which we would keep, that surface parking lot, is wetlands. So that entire area is not developable. On the left side of the access driveway, right there, that runs along Nixon Road, those are the stormwater basins that serve the park, so those would remain in place. And then on the south part of the lot, which currently is shown in green, that's also wetlands. So really what you're looking at is the developable portion of the lot. And then, in terms of the use, why condos? Why not redevelop it as multifamily? We feel very strongly that there's a great opportunity and market demand for people that are downsizing, that empty nesters that want to stay in the area for family, stay close to family, want to have a spacious enough space that you can live comfortably, but not too much space that makes downsizing kind of not make sense. So what we would propose would be units that are all 2 bedrooms, that have an elevator. Each building would have an elevator. They would be flat units, meaning no stairs. And the amenity package would be really covered parking, so there'd be parking below. But it's really aiming towards that demographic. So in terms of like play, things that would be associated with multifamily development where you might have play space, that wouldn't be included. And we have actually developed this type of project in other communities, and it's was not age restricted, but I don't think there was a single person there that was younger than 70 years old or somewhere in their 60s. So that would be kind of the goal. And then, as also shown here, we think there's an opportunity to carve out a restaurant, brew pub type space. That building footprint is about 7,000 square feet, so it's more than adequate for that type of use, and we would use some of the existing parking that sits between that building, where that building would sit, and Emerson Hospital to utilize that. So we think also importantly, the existing sewer capacity within the park, when you eliminate Tech Park 5, could support a project of this size. So just in terms of the feasibility of it, that would be supported. Anything beyond those 80 units, so to the extent that in the future we'd want to redevelop Tech Park 4 and Tech Park 6 on the other side, that would require either a meaningful upgrade to the existing sewer plant or a new sewer plant. So that's a much longer term proposition with a much heavier lift, if you will, in terms of what would be required to achieve it. So this would be something that, if we were successful with swapping out the parcels, we would look to do this in the next year or so. And so I think really those are the main points that I wanted to highlight. This is a rendering of a similar project. We think flat roofs would be our preference, but we can do pitched roofs. And this is just really meant to illustrate the scale of it. 4 stories, parking below. The units would all have storage and things that there'd be a package of amenities within the units. But this is just really more a conceptual kind of image of what it would look like. And then in terms of visibility from Littleton, that's the existing kind of corner of Tech Park 5. So the building would sit right where that building is. You can see the power lines that go through the parking lot. The surface would all be probably redeveloped if we were to move forward with this. But that's where you would see it from the parking lot, and then this is just the vantage point from Littleton Road. It wouldn't have really any meaningful kind of presence along Littleton Road until you turned off of Littleton and started driving down Nixon Road into the park. And that's just another vantage point there. So this is from Technology Park Drive. That's the other. So kind of looking at it from the eastern side as you drive in along Tech Park Drive. And again, that's the power line easement that runs through that site. So we have, I think in the earlier slide, we drafted a very simple proposed warrant article, if you will, that just would seek to replace Lot 2 with Lot 5. And the idea would be to just try and keep this as simple as possible. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, but I know there was a lot of work, like I said, that went into this to begin with, but we think for all the reasons I've outlined, this would make a lot of sense for the park.
Thank you. I have to say, I think this is what we envisioned originally when we talked about MBTA communities. I'd fully support this change. Joni, you have any questions, comments?
My questions are pretty much, I assume that Lot 3F, you're gonna, the open green space, you're gonna gear amenities to, over 55 folks. But
Yeah.
I mirror what Mike said, this is exactly what we were looking for, so. And I do think there is a great need for the over 55, which, we've been kind of pushing, so.
Great. We would. We'd have some limitations in terms of what you can do under the power lines, so we couldn't have any structures there, but certainly, activated space, whether it's, a lawn area or something along those lines,
Yeah.
trails, would be something that, we would want to do.
Bob, comments?
Yeah, first off, I noticed, I didn't hear him say it, but on the diagram that shows the change of the two lots, the diagram is very clear about the exchange, but the warrant article language just needs to be very specific that it's 124, was it -1, replacing, -4, and replacing it with 124-1. That's minor. I mean, overall, I like the concept that we're seeing here. The only fear I have is how do we assure the voters that that in fact is what they will get by adopting this change? This is one of our premier developers probably in Westford, been there a long time. We have not had any issues. But my concern here is it is an expansion in the size of the district. And as we are going through discussion for other parcels, we are seeing concerns about the size of the district. And I guess I would just caution the applicant that this isn't an assured thing. I think there's going to be some pushback, even though this is a really nice looking concept. I like the concept of the mixed use, which I wish we could get everywhere. But I'm just a little concerned about what the acceptance by all members, because this is going to take a 2/3 majority vote at town meeting.
Actually, it's not.
Actually, it might take a simple majority for this proposal.
Could you explain why it's not a zoning change?
Well, it is a zoning change, but at the end of the day, we actually asked town council to review this, knowing this question would come up, because I had my doubts about a 2/3 versus simple majority as well. Council has reviewed it, and they have opined that this type of proposed change would require a simple majority vote.
Okay. The other question, Jeff, because I think this is going to come up at some point here, but could you, because I spoke with you earlier today, but could you explain why this would not be considered spot zoning or spot rezoning?
Sure, so spot zoning, so first of all, we're taking an existing district and there's the potential ask to reconfigure it. Usually spot zoning is when you have, say, a distinct parcel that's 2 acres or less, and this is far, far in excess of that, and you're actually adding to an existing, so in my opinion, this would not constitute that. I know in the initial go-around, we also, I think, reached out to council for spot zoning where there were individual parcels, like the 250 Littleton Road Westford Swim and Tennis Club parcel. That was reviewed, and keep in mind, it was not only reviewed by our town council, but ultimately reviewed by the Attorney General's office. And so we had specific questions about spot zoning, and that was vetted by our council and the Attorney General.
So, that's all. Thank you.
All right. Darren?
No, I like it. I think, I like the idea of it. I think when you first came in, you were talking about the parcel that you want to swap out being the one on Littleton Road, the idea of maybe having that mixed use.
Right.
And now that, it's good to see that there's an extended lease there, because that's the whole purpose of wanting to use these properties, maximize them. So I think it is a little bit bigger, this parcel we're swapping in. However, there is also a public good in the fact that there could be a restaurant or a brew pub there too, which would benefit, not just the people who live right there, but part of Westford as well. Right? So it's kind of a trade-off.
Great. So I think you have our support with this.
Great. I just have one question. If it is 55 and older, that still counts towards the MBTA number of units, correct?
So, well, again, we're not obligated to have any units constructed, but, and let me know if I'm misspeaking, I think he's suggesting he's using age targeted. In other words, they design it, the layout, it lends itself well to, empty nesters. But I don't think they're talking about formal age restriction requirements, but they've done this in other locations where it turns out that you tend to get the 55-plus community because you design it for that.
Pickleball courts, you know, balls with big numbers.
Yeah.
I didn't know if there are some people here in the audience.
Yes, if.
It's not a public hearing, it's a discussion, but while we have the applicant here, I don't know if anyone here has questions.
Questions or comments? Oh, you gotta come up to the microphone and give your name and address, please.
Good evening, Matt Dowling, 8 Equestrian Lane. So was the answer it will count towards the MBTA community law, the acreage and all that?
I'm sorry, you had a question?
Will the development will count towards the MBTA community to?
So it's already in the district, and all we have to do is provide the district. We don't have to provide numbers of units or anything like that. So as long as we have a district, we're in compliance. So they're just asking to change the district on their property, and they have a proposal here. But yeah, so it's good. They're asking to change their MBTA district.
Got it. Okay. Thanks.
Please,
This is a very easy question.
name and address, please.
June McMorrow, Kings Pine Road, excuse me. What is 5 Tech Park zoned for now? What is it called now?
Well, so what they have, well, Jeff, you can answer the zoning, but the MBTA overlay district is what we're specifically looking at. So in that district, they can do multifamily housing, they could put restaurants, mixed-use stuff in the multifamily, the MBTA district.
So that's what it's called, that's the zoning term that's referred to that area now?
No, so part of that area. So to build what they want to build,
Yeah,
it has to be in the MBTA district.
yeah,
Part of they want to shift the MBTA district so they can build what they want to build.
okay.
So they have that land now, they just want to change the district a little bit and add a little bit of acreage.
So I guess my question is, I live on Kings Pine Road and that is zoned residential A. What is this,
So
what
if
is the zoning?
If I may, there's two. There's the IH, which is the Industrial Highway Zoning
Okay,
District.
I think that's what I'm asking.
Yep. And then the blue is the Commercial Highway. So big picture, Tech Park East is comprised mostly of Industrial Highway with some Commercial Highway that's close to.
Oh, so it has two zoning classification, is that the correct term?
Districts. Yes.
Districts.
Actually, 3. Now it has an
And
overlay.
then there's an overlay district.
Okay,
Which is in graph.
So the red and the blue are the underlying, those are the base zoning. The MBTA is an overlay that sits on top of it. They're asking to
Okay.
change the overlay location.
so I think by taking out 2 and adding 5, you're adding, is it another 82 units to the,
No. So what they're proposing is, so they could still build 440 units on that property as it is now. What they're asking to do, or was it 380?
it's 358 units?
So they have the ability in that district as is to build 358 units. What they are looking to do is to change that district, which would give them the ability to build 440, but at their concept plan is only 80 units.
For this one part.
Okay. So this is not going to change the total of 4,900, which we've committed to?
So-
It's not going to add another close to 100 units to the,
Well, it looks like it would change, what, 60, it's about 60 units? If, the potential units that could be built in all of that district. Is that correct?
Who's take?
You want to start? You want me to start?
Why don't you start?
So under our MBTA district, we have to allow for 15 units per acre. That was a requirement by the state from the very
yes.
So based on just an acreage math,
Yeah.
15 units per acre, and the acreage of the district in its
Yeah.
totality, right now it comes out to about 4,900. Doesn't mean we have to build any of those units, just the acreage we had to accommodate was for 924, but the district, as it was approved by town meeting over a year ago, was for an area that is large enough theoretically for 4,900 units. The area would change, the unit capacity would be increased by approximately 80 units over there.
Mhm.
but that's just for district-wide 80 units. And still, no units have to be built. That's just what the underlying zoning theoretically, in some world, could allow.
Support. Right.
They're not proposing to build that with this proposal. As you saw, they're proposing 80 units in Tech Park 5.
Okay.
Even though the compliance model would say you could do 205 units. They're saying based on the infrastructure that they have now, they can do 80 units.
Okay. So I was here 2 weeks ago, at the meeting 2 weeks ago. And so you're saying that this potentially could add 80 units. And what I'm saying is so 80, I'll just say 80, so 4,980, is the 4,900 number gonna creep up? That's my concern.
So if there's a net increase to the overall overlay district area, and I think it is it 4 acres?
4 to 5 acres.
So that would represent a potential unit count increase.
Yes.
And if you look at, if you focus in on Tech Park East, with these changes, they don't have any other plans for multifamily development at this time, other than the 80 units.
But you have various developers coming from various corners, and they're not all talking to each other. So I'm just concerned that we don't go over the 4,900 eventually. I mean, I might not even be here in a couple of years, so what do I care? But I do care right now. So that's all I'm saying.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anybody in the audience, anything else? Thank you, sir.
Okay,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you. Thank you.
Appreciate your time. Trivia, anyone know what was there before Tech Park East? Is that the flea market?
I know, but that was.
Wasn't where they have the flea market?
The flea market, exactly.
On Sunday mornings.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. All right, discussion item E, discuss potential zoning bylaw amendments for the 2025 special town meeting, including change site plan review, change to Appendix A, change to Section 3.3 accessory dwelling units, change relative to ground-mounted solar panel arrays. Mr. Morissette?
So I'll start, and Joe will fix anything he needs to. So this one, you've already had a discussion, preliminary discussion with NIMCOG. As you know, we think it'd be a very good thing, both for economic development and process and expense for people trying to come into town and do business. We just think that everything should have the appropriate level of review, no more, no less. And so this would accomplish that. So they gave that initial conversation. They're going to work on specific language. And so that's something that's already on your plate. We're going through this exercise because, as you may recall, as part of any zoning bylaw amendment, the select board must sort of remand those topics to the planning board to have their public hearing process as required under Chapter 40A. So that is one that everyone is, I think, already fully aware of. We've had lots of public discussions about that, so that is already in the works. Joe's going to talk about the next one, some suggested changes to Appendix A, Table of Principal Use Regulations, and I think this began with a conversation with the Zoning Board of Appeals, but it was based upon they were receiving certain applications, maybe again, or it didn't make a lot of sense, and we thought it made sense to have a conversation with them. So Joe, why don't you take over, please?
And the changes that would be, I guess, brought up are changing things that are currently in N, not allowed, and providing a special permit option. Just who happens to be the special permit granting authority in that line, or if there's a new one, maybe there's a discussion about who would be the special permit granting authority, and just trying to look at either some vestiges left over. Why was that not allowed before, or what have you. So the ones highlighted in yellow in your packet are ones that they felt could be appropriate to at least consider for a special permit option. For instance, conversion of a dwelling. There's 2, maybe 3 structures in there that could classify within the CH and IH districts. So it's kind of a thought of why not at least give them the option if they wanted at some point down the line to do the conversion of a dwelling option.
Just a reminder, conversion of a dwelling normally allows, if a structure at one point in time was a residential dwelling before our zoning bylaw existed, 1955, it could be potentially converted up to 4 dwelling units. And there's only a handful, as Joe mentioned, in the CH district, but there's others in the I.
So it at least gives people an opportunity, if they want to pursue that, to at least seek a special permit. You kind of go down the line, hospital or clinic, that would be just within the IH district, industrial highway. Why it was not allowed before, not entirely sure. Maybe just looking to be geared more towards industrial uses, I guess. Veterinary hospital or clinic, again, IH or IA, so industrial highway or IA, we normally associate people in their minds immediately with Route 40 area. Retail sales to the general public, again, IH, not allowed now. Why? Again, maybe it's just thinking about industrial uses versus general retail sales. Nursing, convalescent home, commercial highway, hotel in the IH district. I believe there is one right near Tech Park East. And how it got there, I'm not totally sure. But and a few others in here as well. So again, fairly minimal changes overall to the chart. Again, some of these ones that don't have a special permit granting authority now, maybe there's a discussion about who it would be. But otherwise, it would be, keeping SPA as SPA or SPB as SPB, whoever is in that line. So that would be, I think, a relatively light lift to consider overall.
This next one, this is like the poster child. So there was an applicant for a business that wanted to come to town. They, at the time, had like 3 employees, I believe, but they were looking to expand over the next year where they'd have 5 employees, maybe even 7 a few years down the road. So the way our bylaw is written now, they were allowed for the 3 employees, but it would be prohibited if they added 2 more employees. We thought it either just made sense to at least have a special permit option.
Yep.
That just, because that would have been, we think, sad to know. You're successful, you add 2 more employees, and suddenly it's prohibited. So we think that makes sense. And this came up actually a few times, so we would like to try to address that.
So I don't know if the board has any thoughts or objections to having that at special town meeting at all.
No objections.
No.
Makes sense.
Makes sense, yep.
The next couple items listed on there are items we're anticipating having discussions with NEMCOG again at the July 16th meeting. Accessory dwelling units, we had changes, took effect Groundhog Day. So looking to update the bylaw, and there'll have to be a couple, I guess, kind of policy questions vetted by the board about what do you do with ones that are over 900 square feet? Do you still want to allow a special permit or not? Do you want to allow multiple accessory dwelling units, one by special permit, one as a protected use ADU, or do you want to restrict it to one on the property? So some questions to think about for that. We're hoping to have that, at least that one on special town meeting, so we don't have as much of a period of limbo between when those regulations came into effect and our bylaw as it is today. Ground-mounted solar, I don't know if you want to touch on that at all.
Yeah, just that this has come up a number of times more and more frequently. So right now, it'd be good to clarify what does need to meet zoning setbacks and whether or not, if there are any triggers or things, if there's any glare or other potential nuisance, particularly in, residential neighborhoods or near the traveled way. So right now, we're basically completely silent. And we're just asking NIMCOG to assist us with, what have other communities done? And, we're not looking to do a heavy lift here. We just want to have something that's on the books that gives the town, if needed, the ability to address any potential nuisance issues. So
Generally speaking, I think a couple minor bylaw amendments, if you will, between the Appendix A changes and the ground-mounted solar. tiered site plan review, ADUs that are both more substantial. And then potentially, if the board was willing to sponsor an amendment, change to the MICMOD map. All for special town meeting.
All right.
Good, so we have a couple discussions in July then coming up.
Yep.
Some time to think about if there's anything you wanted to postpone, I guess, for annual town meeting.
What a drive-through. Bob?
Yeah, yeah.
Just a joke. All right, excellent. Anything more from us on this at this point?
I don't think so. I mean, unless we hear otherwise, it seems like we'll at least just let town manager know that those four, I think, plus the Gutierrez discussion is, you know, what you tend to go forward with, so we would need them to take some vote at some point in a future meeting.
Yeah, just on the tech park one, just came to mind. Would they be presenting this to the town meeting, or would that be Jeff, you presenting that potential amendment?
So I think it would make, well, selfishly, if the first question is, are you going to sponsor or not sponsor? Ultimately, if the planning board decides to sponsor, I think it would make sense for the board to present, and we would answer any technical questions with the assistance of town council.
I think that we're more likely to have that pass if we sponsor it as opposed to the developer.
Right, and that, so on that, and I know this wasn't a public hearing, so I think I could still opine on it. You know, one of the things that we're hearing from folks is concern about the number of units in the overlay district. So if Gutierrez was to say, hey, listen, we're gonna add 5 more acres, but we're gonna still stick to our original number of units between those original proposed lots. That would be something that would help in their favor, I think, as we present this, if it's true.
Yeah, would the Attorney General allow that, though, restricting the amount of units in that acreage?
So it's,
Great idea.
we can see what options there are to explore, but typically you can't have usually a development agreement or a restriction on the total number. We found that out from the last go-around, but it doesn't mean that there couldn't be some creative solutions so that it's at least net neutral.
Yeah, that's fine.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Good idea.
And if it's net neutral unit-wise, and they get the benefit of a brew pub, a restaurant or something, that's a public good.
Right, we will roll that into the mix.
Great. All right, we have minutes in the package. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes? What do we have here?
We have the
May
May
5th.
5th.
May 5th.
May 19th in time for your packet, but we do have May 5th.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? Bob?
No,
Joni?
No.
Darren?
No comments?
No, I don't have anything. So all those in favor say aye. Joni?
Aye.
Bob?
aye.
Darren?
Aye.
And I say aye. I didn't believe there's any correspondence. Nope. All right, anything else we need to discuss?
Mr. Chair?
Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Joni?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Darren?
Aye.
And I say aye.